Sir, good afternoon to you.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm glad you said I'm your brother.
Indeed we are. How are you today, man?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy to
First
be
of
here.
all, allow us to commend you for, finalizing, closing off and putting your signature on everything that you planned to do. Everything was done. Everything that wasn't finished is now being completed, and we want to commend you for doing excellent work, not only for yourself and your ministry, for the communities that you represent. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm very, very happy to be here. I mean, yesterday we had the reading of a budget. A budget just general information. I just want the listeners to be aware. I like to do a little bit of education, especially for the young people who are listening. HJ, a lot of people listen to HJ, especially young people. I want them to be aware of how this works. So every country has to have a government, and a government has expenses along with what they want to do for the people.
Understood.
Right? They have plans that to help to make their lives better. So that's where this government budget comes in.
Understood.
There is what's called recurrent expenditure, which would be things like salaries and utilities, etc. But then there's also something called capital expenditure, which is about public investment, where government decides that they're going to make an investment where they believe that it would be beneficial for the population.
Yeah.
So for example, that road that you see that was just resurfaced outside here, right in Queenstown. In fact, all of the roads in Queenstown and Albertown have already been redone. And I just passed in Kitty after the president went in Kitty just a few days ago. Those roads have already started to do. That's where government says that we're going to make an investment because it improves the quality of life for people.
Understood.
So that's what the whole purpose of a budget is. Generally, when you want to do new things, you have to cater for it. So it's not just a discussion and to say that this is a good idea. You have to cater for it because new ideas also come with an expense. There is an expense for new ideas. Sometimes it can be cost saving, where you can actually save money. But generally, if you are doing something for the first time, it comes with an expense.
Understood.
So that's where you find that capital expenditure. And I don't want to use too many words that would confuse people. It's just a part of the budget where government makes an investment. In fact, it's called the Public Investment Program.
Understood.
Public Sector Investment Program. So that's just the idea of it, how budgets work generally. Now, this is the largest budget that we've ever had. A portion of it is fueled by our oil revenue, but more than a half to 2/3 of it is fueled by our own revenue.
Yes.
So, and I can use that as from last year's, use that as a base from last year's money and last year's budget. Generally, a budget is funded by three ways. One is revenue, meaning money that the country earns.
Okay.
Another way is where it's fueled by loans, money that you have to pay back. And then another way is where you are paying back, you don't have to pay back, and it's called a grant. Many people know about grants now because they've received grants before. Lots of grants throughout the country, but those grants you don't have to pay back.
Understood.
So those three ways are the ways that government gets their money. But our revenue base has grown a lot, but it's still not significant enough where we can even do bigger things, and that's why that's where government has to find money to do those bigger projects. An example. So for the bridge over the Demerara River, that project is going to cost about $270 million US. $270 million US. So there's a reason why we haven't had a bridge over the Demerara River before.
Because
it's $270 million US. And just to give you an example, yes, we are at $1 trillion in our budget, but that's $1 trillion Guyanese dollars. You still have to divide that by 210 if you were to really quantify that in American money, just to do a comparison. And so I just gave a reference of what the price is for a
In
bridge
US
over
dollars.
in US dollars, right? But you're talking about $1 trillion US, which is about 5 billion 5 billion US here. But that caters for salaries. So, for example, for salaries here, we're catering for $121 billion. That's to cater for 55,000 persons who are working in public service, right? And central government, not just public service, but central government. So it's just the wage bill alone is expensive. I remember when budgets used to be 180 billion and 200 billion, and that used to be a big thing.
Yeah, those were big numbers.
And we always wanted to know, why is it that our country was not looking the way that it other places that we've gone to, or other places that we might see on TV, United States of America, England, Canada, developed countries. Even some of the places like our neighbor in Trinidad. Some people say, well, why doesn't Guyana look as good as Trinidad?
I want to see some of the bigger buildings and the infrastructure changes.
That's the key word that you use there, right? So all countries start off looking the same, relatively
Agreed.
speaking.
Agreed.
Relatively speaking, unless you have some geographical differences, because let's say you are in a colder climate, you have a lot more, frosty kind of appearances. If you were in a drier climate, it's a lot more desert type of appearances. Equator types, it's a lot more forest and green. But all countries generally start off the same. Why is it that those countries are considered more developed? It's because of their infrastructure.
Agreed.
And there's a correlation between the quality of your infrastructure and also the quality of your human capital and the quality of your life. So every single time, I wanted to just emphasize this point here to speak about infrastructure for a second, because there are some persons who are attempting to say that the government's big budget, they're attempting to be critical of the government's big budget. Well, of course they have to be critical, especially a certain group of people. They have to be critical. They have to say that the budget is bad. But you have to understand money and understand how money works, right? So money is fuel. You have to look at it like money is fuel. Money is what brings ideas and measures and benefits and buildings and all that kind of stuff to life. And that's why this whole budget process is such an intense process from the government side. There's a lot of effort that goes into the preparation, and I want to congratulate the Ministry of Finance, the Minister of Finance, the President, the Vice President, everybody that was involved in this, all of the cabinet that's involved in it, because we have to submit our budget based on the ideas that we have, and what some it can be catered for and some can't. So, and we're moving very rapidly to a place where we're going to get more revenue in a non-linear way. In fact, it'll be a lot more exponential. And it allows us to not only do more things, but think about things differently. So when people who are critical of the budget, when you have more money, it means that you can do more. Just let's put that down to the most basic understanding of what it means to have more money in the budget. It just means that you can do more, and everything that the government does, it's intended to do more for the country, right? Do more for the people in the country, because there isn't like a portion that's directed to go and spend in another country unless they're producing something that we don't have and that we need.
Right.
But generally, it is for us to do more things in the country.
As of this morning, after everyone got a chance to probably read the summary of the budget, everyone didn't get a chance to read it in depth. The burning question on the street is basically, what's in the budget for me? And everybody's going to ask you that whenever they see you, Minister. They're going to say, but Minister, how does it benefit me? You're going to say, first of all, you get to carry home more money because the tax ceiling has now been raised.
Absolutely.
I'm 100% in support of that. How else can the common man benefit
So
from
let's
this
go
new
through some
budget?
of that, right? Because I want to start with some large numbers so that you get an idea. The first thing is, I just mentioned, which is $121 billion is catered for wages and salaries on government, central government employment. $121 billion, right? So that's direct payment that people use for their livelihood. That's increased, right? Second, and there will be a increase later on in the year. Okay. Second is, let's use something that they can feel and touch immediately. You have 205,000 kids that are catered for as part of the children's cash grant.
Yes.
Right. So we moved from 0 in 2020. We had it before the $10,000 cash grant when the previous administration took it away and said it was a scam. We said that we would move it in opposition. We said that we would move it from that 10,000. We would reintroduce it, and move it to 50,000. Right. So it is now $45,000 per child this year.
That's a good
$45,000 per child this year. So
we're getting closer to 50.
And next year it will be 50. All things being equal, because it is our intention
to bring it to 50.
to make sure that we achieve all of our promises, all of our commitments that we made in our manifesto. It is our intention to make sure that we hit that in our 5-year period. Similarly, pensioners. So that's 205,000 kids that'll be benefiting. Lots and lots of parents, lots and lots of families, etc. That's direct money going to them. You also have, when we raise the threshold to 100,000 persons, that moves 13,000 persons who are currently paying taxes totally out of the tax bracket. 13,000. But what it also does is that it incentivizes persons to actually get onto the formal economy. So there are lots of people who might be making 100,000 right now, and they don't want to go into GRA and make their declarations, because they know that a portion of that is going to come out in taxes.
Yes.
But they're losing because they don't get to benefit from some of the opportunities that the financial sector can provide. And it incentivizes persons who pays taxes because it says they're part of the formal economy.
Understood.
And I just want to make this point too generally, that when it comes to how you can grow, you can't grow just by not being part of the financial system. If you're just doing odd jobs, or you're doing jobs where you're getting cash payments and whatever, but you're not actually joining the formal economy, where you have a relationship with your bank, where GRA recognizes you so you can get a compliance if you need to, etc. If you don't have that relationship, you're not going to be able to get leverage, and leverage allows you to grow. If anybody who knows the modern financial system, they will tell you that almost all of the houses that you see in the modern economy, right? They're not built with cash that they have saved.
They all went to the bank and got a loan.
Almost
mortgaged.
all of them, almost the entire American system is built on credit.
Yeah.
In fact, there is some statistics that say right now in the United States they have about 40% of persons who don't have about $200 in their bank account, because their entire system is running on credit. Now, I'm just saying that because it incentivizes persons to actually become part of the formal economy. They're reliefs for spectacles and getting your eyes tested, cervical cancer, you name it, you'll find some measure in our budget to help to support that. For example, when we came in, our pension was for 76,000 pensioners. And what's important here for pension in Guyana is that it's a non-contributory scheme.
It's out all the time.
So you have NIS, which is a contributory scheme, but then you have old age pension, which is a non-contributory scheme. So if you were making your contributions as you were supposed to, then our minimum has just moved. The minimum has just moved up to 43,000, right, on NIS. If you weren't making any, in addition to what you can get from NIS, because the law says you have to pay NIS, you now removed in 2020 from 20,000 to now it's 36,000, right? And our target was to double that, right? We were to double the 20,000 to 40,000, and we are on track to achieving that by 2025. So in terms of just sheer numbers that I've called there, the volume of numbers that I've called there, you're talking 400,000 plus people that I've, on those small little assessments that I've said,
definitely going to be touched by that.
They will be touched already. Now, why are we going so heavy on the infrastructure, right? Every single person who has ever traveled to any other country or seen any other country that's considered developed, they know why it's developed. They see all these big buildings, they see all these nice roads, they see all these hospitals, they see all these schools, they see all these stadiums.
And they ask the question, why don't we have that where we're from?
Why don't we have it?
Yes.
Why don't we have it? The fact is that you have to invest in it. You have to invest in it. And whether it's a driveway where you walk in from every single day, so they would have put down this driveway. The folks who put down this driveway, I'm just pointing it because it's right here so people could see or understand what I'm talking about. This driveway here was put down maybe 15 years ago.
Agreed.
I don't know if they did any work to this driveway anytime recently, but I have not seen any improvements to this driveway
For the past 15
years. Maybe 15 years, as long as I would say I've been coming through here. They may say different, I'm not sure, right? But they have not spent back any money on this driveway. But hundreds and hundreds of people use this driveway all the time. And this is just to their business. This is just to their business. So think about a road that's being done. Think about a school where you have 1,000 kids going to school there all the time, or a stadium that you're building where you have thousands of people going and being in attendance and the development of talent, or hospitals where you have hundreds and maybe thousands of people who can go every single year to get a benefit just because you have increased your investment in these facilities and opportunities to get a better quality of life.
Speaking about investments in facilities, new year, new budget. You've literally outlined all the things that you wanted to do with your ministry for the past year, and I've seen you go head on into achieving those goals. Are there, or have you decided on any new spaces that you're going to create for outdoor use this year? And how do you think that you'll be able to accomplish that as fast as you did last budgetary year?
Right. So I want to answer that, but I also want to mention one other thing.
Go ahead.
When it comes to infrastructure spending, that infrastructure spending, every time that they have to buy sand, they have to buy it from the sand pit. They have to use a truck driver. The truck, I mean, our road is filled with trucks as a result of the demand when it comes to moving up material. They have to get material from shops and stores. They have to get construction workers. They have to get all kinds of services that moves into every part of the economy.
Understood.
Causing the economy to continuously expand all the time. Continuously expand all the time because there's more investment happening. And then that creates a circle of where more investment happens from the private sector too. How can I prove this? I remember when we used to do some assessments in the 2010 to 2013, 14 period. We used to say 10,000 cars a year. You know, you're changing the number plate. within the year, you're changing the number plate, which was
I remember
a
that.
big thing
I
for
remember
us
that.
back then, right? Because we never used to see those things happening. I remember when that first started to happen.
We do it
and
in 6
became
months now.
5 months. We change our number plates now in 5 months. That means people are buying cars and vehicles 10,000 every 5 months.
Wow.
Every 5 months. So when the opposition and people who are critical will always have to say that the budget is bad and that the budgets all so far have been bad. They've always said that. But the fact is that it's not just rich people who are buying vehicles. Everybody's buying vehicles. It's not, you see rich people who are driving, they may drive the big Lexus or the Range Rover or whatever. But that's not the only cars that are coming into the country. You still have the big demand on the Toyotas and the Nissans and everything.
And they're all utilizing the same space.
Absolutely. And the same road. They're utilizing the same bridge. They're utilizing the same whatever, parking lot, etc., all of which is being built now. Look at what happened with a single highway that was built from the back road, Mandela, all the way to Diamond. That trip used to take 1 hour.
Easy.
1 hour. People used to leave 6:30 in the morning just to make sure that they get down to town in time. That now, I did just a casual drive from the roundabout to the roundabout, Diamond roundabout to back road roundabout. We have another name for it in the country. I won't say it on air, but the two roundabouts, it took me 6 minutes.
Yes.
It took me 6 minutes. So the people who are arguing against infrastructure, they have not been able to find another reason to be critical of the type of structure that this budget has. And from an ideological standpoint, you have to expand your economic base in order for you to get more of the consistent revenue so that you can pay the recurrent expenditure that I spoke about at the beginning. So that the things that you know that you will have to get money for regardless, the bills, what are known as like the bills, your utilities and everything. Government pays all of those things too. You have to pay all of your utilities. You got to pay your taxes. You got to pay wages. You got to pay these printing materials, etc. Those are recurrent expenditures. So you have to expand your base where you know that that recurrent expenditure is catered for. Otherwise, people will lose jobs. If your stream of money stops,
that's it for the employees.
It can cause people to end up losing their jobs. And I have seen it. I have seen it happen to oil and gas economies. I'll speak a little bit more about this during the budget debate. But I've seen it happen. Oil economies go through booms and busts all the time, and a lot of people suffer as a result. So what the country needs right now is exactly what we're doing, where you have the investment that's needed to make sure that people have the opportunities, right? Everyone has the opportunities. And then at the same time, you're creating the conditions for wealth creation and the building of assets. Think about homes. And I want to talk about homes and scholarships too. Because homes, you're talking about building assets, you're building wealth. We have already allocated and distributed over 30,000 house lots already in the 3 years. We promised 50. We're 3 years in. 30 already achieved. And it's significant work that the Ministry of Housing is doing, and I want to congratulate them. That's an example of showing how 30,000 Guyanese have now obtained their own title for their land, which this is now their asset. They can use that to get a mortgage and create more money in the system, start getting more jobs. If you go and pass and you see how many homes are being built all around the country, every single street that you pass on right now, whether it's a housing scheme or in Georgetown, Old Georgetown, New Georgetown, you will find every single street a home some renovation is happening, and those are not friends and families and favorites. Those are ordinary people who are getting an opportunity to build and grow. And that's how the money spins around and circulates and expands. And that's an example so that people can see that when persons are critical of the philosophy and the direction of the budget, they don't understand. And I want anyone who is critical of the budget, go and examine what are their credentials. Understanding how to run a country and understanding what is the economic base of how you can build and grow, etc. Just go and examine their credentials. Some of these folks have never run anything before in their life. They don't have any economic training, financial training. They don't have any business success. So it's difficult for them to really give advice. You have to know where you're getting your advice from. So I wanted to just explain that about how the building of the country means that it benefits for everyone. Every single street, every single walkway, every single hospital and school that's built, everybody, ordinary people, it might become invisible over time because you don't think about the road, you don't think about the walkway, you don't think about the fact that the school is there, whatever. You just know it's there. But it had to become there because somebody said, the government at some point had said, this is something that we need to invest in. And then over time you maintain or you expand, etc. But the bottom line is that that money had to come from somewhere. A decision had to be made that it was going to happen, and it makes a lot of benefit, brings a lot of benefit for everyone. Every single taxi driver who is now driving on smoother roads, they're saving money because they don't have to get the wear and tear on their vehicle.
Agreed.
Every single bus driver that is not spending money on parts and having to lose more fuel with starts and stops and all of that, they're saving money. So what that means is that there is more disposable income for everyone. And this budget has no new taxes.
That's very important.
None whatsoever. So I wanted to give just a little framework,
please,
of people understanding how the budget is framed and what's the kind of understanding behind it, and understand that there are people who have to criticize. Their job is to criticize, but there are lots and lots of benefits for people in this budget, and I would advise them, take those benefits. Scholarships, for example. There are 21,000 people who have already obtained scholarships from this government of Guyana, right? 21,000 people have already obtained scholarships. I have seen how their degrees and their courses have translated into jobs, obtaining better jobs, and obtaining better salaries. Take the benefits that are being provided. If you hear anybody being critical of it, ask other people who have done it and say, how has it benefited them? I have seen it. I've seen it even in our own ministry where they have done it and how they have advanced and how that's helped to change their quality of life.
Minister, man, I really hate the fact that you come when we have to close up shop. You know, I really wish that you could come in a little bit earlier so we could have these conversations. And we do understand that you're a busy person. You have a lot going on. And we appreciate the time that you take to come in and, you know, break it down to the common man. We really do appreciate the fact that you take your time to do that. And we want to re-invite you to come back in. And, you know, let's break it down after the budget debates.
Sounds good. Sounds good. What I will say, though, is that our budget is larger. Larger than it's ever been before, larger than some people would ever even have imagined, right? But why did that happen?
Why did it happen?
It happened because, first of all, the president and the cabinet believes in the work that we're doing and how we can convert the existing talent that we have in this country, which we know we have an abundance of, how we can convert that into something world-class. This year, I'm just going to talk quickly about some of the projects that are happening already. we're already building 5 stadiums. We're building 6 indoor facilities. Not starting this year, it's already started. These projects have already started. I just put up on our page, we've finished the first phases of a number of those projects. Obviously, nowhere you can go and hear anyone say, any part of this region, and say that they're building 5 stadiums or 6 indoor facilities. Where in any CARICOM country you can hear that, or any place in Latin America, unless they're hosting a big event. But the fact is that our country has suffered because we had a deficit in facilities.
We didn't have enough facilities.
We had a deficit in facilities. Look at the indoor facilities. There was the gymnasium and the sports hall that Region 4 had benefited from. Where else in the country had that? So right now I'm building that in every other region.
Nice.
Right? Every other region is getting that right now. 5 different locations. You're having that in 1. You're having that in 3. You're having that in 7. You're having it in 8 and 9. Right? And then we're doing 1 here right at the Racket Hall. So we're doing 6 of that. 5 stadiums. We did already 250 grounds, community grounds, right? Supported that. So, and that work is going to continue to go on, because a lot of these grounds require more support.
Yeah, they got to get prep, and then they have to be built.
More support. They got to get things like pavilions and washrooms and a number of things where we have minimum standards that we're putting into our sports policy. But that is what we are doing now. So that's why we now have the largest allocation for community grounds. It's $1 billion. It's $1 billion. And I want to just show you what that means. People might say it's just money, sounds like just numbers, right? I want to show you for here in Georgetown, because I know you got a widespread here in 94. We decided a few months ago that we were going to do every single community ground in Georgetown. 32. 32 grounds in Georgetown. First of all, that's a lot of grounds in Georgetown, and that excludes the grounds like the Everest and the Maltinos and the DCC and whatever. They get some special funding that from me, because they host international games and stuff like that. So they've already had support, GCC, etc. But the community grounds, there were 32. There were about 70 contractors doing different projects in those 32 grounds. About 70 of them, because they're different projects, right? You have a fence to build, you got the field to do, you got
washrooms,
whatever, right?
Drainage.
You had about 70 of them. Most of these were new.
New contractors.
Most of these were new, and most of these were from the area, and we worked with their budget. We had several engagements with them, and they can come and tell you that. They will come and tell you that we met with them, we understood where they could do their services, etc. What kind of stuff they've done before, if they've ever had any engagement before or whatever, but we worked with them. All of them have performed. All of them have performed. So when those folks are saying, from who are paid to criticize, right, that these are friends, families, and favorites, these are people I've never seen before. We did vetting of their background to know that they are from the area, that they're capable of getting it done, but we worked with their budget. 70 new contractors. Now, think about that on a larger scale, which is that you have about Public Works, which is doing an amazing job too. Public Works has about $200 billion in their budget on the capital side. That's tens of thousands of contractors who have to do those jobs and more, right? Who have to do those jobs that the government intends to do, because we don't do it ourselves. We contract out for it to be done. We have to supervise to make sure that it meets, and want people to know that people don't get paid unless they do what their bills of quantity says. So it's actually a pretty good system, but the bottom line is that these are tens of thousands of contractors who had to become contractors because this is the demand.
Right.
Now, some people have done an excellent job, and a lot of them have actually done an excellent job, because we do hundreds of projects, probably even heading into the thousands. Our ministry, they're smaller, no doubt, but there are hundreds. We do bigger projects too, but not hundreds of big projects
Right.
like, let's say, a public works does. But they're smaller, but those persons may have never even thought about becoming a contractor, and they did, and they became successful, and they thought about doing that as their new career, and some of them have. So how would that have happened if you did not have a bigger infrastructure program? How would that have happened? And that allows people to become businessmen and women on their own. Some of these are women too. Some of them are, in fact, a good portion of them are even young as well. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I just used from our ministry, where we just did these grounds here. You could pass every ground in Georgetown, you'll see work going on. Every ground, you'll see work going on. That small amount of money, which was about $170 million or so, I don't quote me on the figure, but it was about that amount of money.